Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Paranormal Peeps podcast. The only podcast with paranormal peeps and podcasts all in the same title. We checked it out. It's true. We have a fun show
I'll go
tonight.
verify now.
No, we do. I'm serious. I have looked it up. I promise you it's legit. I checked it on the interweb. So, we have a fun show for you tonight. Something that we all have actual personal experience with. And being the month of Halloween, we talk about fun stuff like that, like ghosts, which is what we usually talk about most episodes. But this one's fun because we've all been there. Well, wait, we were all at Benson. We were all at the prison. We've all been to lots of places.
You're all following me around. What are you doing?
No. Well, you're kind of cute. But no, tonight we're going to talk about a place here local to Utah. And most people, if you live in Utah, you've probably done an investigation there. But it so far just tends to be one of the most active places I have ever investigated.
And say there was an episode on a certain TV show that we don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
So if you've seen that episode, you've heard of this place too.
It wasn't good though. It was like
I didn't say it was good.
Yeah.
It was there.
It was very poorly represented in this episode. We'll talk about that in a minute. But first, let's go around the table and introduce our hosts. To my left,
Elisa. Wow, I went first this
the
time.
lovely Elisa.
Hello.
And it's Josh. I'm a unicorn.
He's the one that's responsible for putting the show up and doing all the editing. And so if you have any problems with the editing, send your hate mail to Josh at paranormalhope.com or whatever the email address is for that.
Perfect.
Yes.
We'll go with that.
Okay. To your left, Josh.
Jamie. And I'm back. It's Terry.
She's my wife. We missed her. And of course, I'm
No,
Lord.
you didn't.
We did.
Whatever, so did.
We totally missed you. Those were good episodes. And you had so much knowledge and experience, and you're very good at telling the stories.
It was a good episode because I wasn't here. It's all good.
No.
It would have been better. We probably lost viewers because you weren't here.
We lost a lot of viewers anyway.
Yes.
No one's watching us.
I know, see? And I am Lord Mike, the great one. The great in size.
He even has a crown on tonight.
Lord
Can
Mike
we just talk about that right
Lord
now?
Mike the Rotund.
Mike's all dressed up with a crown because he's Lord Mike.
Yep.
Yep, kilt and crown, because, Scottish ancestry, yeah.
And I'm dressed up as Ghostbusters.
With the goggles and all.
She's got the Spangler jumpsuit on. She's got goggles on. She has the inflatable ecto pack. or proton pack, what it's called. Sorry, proton pack.
Then Josh has got his unicorn.
I'm a unicorn.
He's a little. Never mind.
It's glittery and everything.
It is.
Then Jamie has this cool skull crown thing.
She, honestly, what it reminds me of? In Temple of Doom. When they stand over the lava and stuff, the guy that leads the
yes.
the ritual.
Yeah.
It totally does. That's like
It's
the little
like a-
vulture skull in the middle.
Is it a vulture or is it like a raven
think
skull in the
it's-
middle?
It looks like a vulture to me.
I don't know. I thought vulture skulls were bigger.
Well, I'm sure it's a mini version
It's
of one.
something. It's a skull of a bird.
I don't know. Either way,
But it
it's
looks cool.
still cool.
It looks
It's
really cool.
Especially when you put
Raven.
a light underneath her chin. It looked really cool.
Yeah.
And Terry has...
I just have a big orange bow with a pumpkin on my head.
Yeah.
Looks
I
like
look
she's
like
going to
a-
Disneyland.
I look like a cheerleader.
Or like JoJo.
Jojo, the big bow. Jojo Sawa. So, but no, if you want to see, we posted a video on Instagram. We have a whole party going on down here before we
We
started
do.
the podcast.
We do.
Oh man, it's so cool.
They actually... the Josh and Jamie totally decorated the basement for us. Just for tonight. Just for you guys. Just for you, our listeners.
That's
And
right.
so it will come through.
Has
in
nothing
the
to do with the
recording.
fact that Josh's office is down here either.
No.
I don't have enough room in my cubicle at work for all this. I have one little ghost, but I do have the Ray Funko Pop. But that's
Funko
it.
Pop. Yeah.
The Venkman. No,
We've got
it's
all.
Ray, isn't it? The one with the goggles on his head.
That's Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Ray
have Ray.
Stance. That's what it says on his thing. Stance.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Anywho.
So yeah, go check it out. It looks really cool down here.
All right.
Happy Halloween.
Well, I hope that you all listened to I keep saying it, the prison episode up in Montana. Hopefully, you've learned some cool things about that, and we'd love to hear your feedback. We do have on some of the different places where you can go, the different platforms you can leave reviews. We would love to have it. If you guys have any positive reviews, drop a note. Tell everybody how great you thought the show was, and if it's constructive, you could leave some criticism. Only if it's constructive. No negative stuff. No, we don't want any negative dances.
Even if there's like subjects you want us to cover,
Oh, yeah,
if you have any
totally.
ideas, let us know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and tell us what your favorite episode is.
Yep. Be like, the Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color? It's like, I'm Lord Mikey, what's your favorite episode? No, and anything that you want us to talk about, we want to please you, the listeners. So go check it out. Go drop a note, drop a review. 5 stars only, thank you. Or 4.5, maybe. I don't know.
I'd take a 4.
4 or 5.
I'll take a 4.
I'm taking a
And
5,
then,
guys.
and then
I don't
also
know what you
spread
guys-
the word. Tell your friends and family about us. Tell your coworkers. Tell your neighbors. Tell the people at the grocery store. I don't know.
I've done all of those
The
things.
person at the drive-thru at Carl's Jr. Yeah, we've done that too. In fact, never mind. I'll tell you later. But tonight we have a fun topic. So, like I said before, it's a place that we've all been. We're talking about some ghosts and some ghost investigating at a lovely place in Stansbury Park, Utah, called the Benson Grist Mill. So
It's not in Tooele. It's in Stansbury.
It's not Tooele. It's in Stansbury. There's a whole other town
Wait,
in between them called
It's pronounced
Erda.
Tooele? I thought it was Thule.
Depends on where you're from.
If we're going to get into pronunciation, is it Halloween or Halloween? Okay?
Oh. I opened a can.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
So, Josh, tell us a little about just kind of brief overview of the history of the mill out there, and then we'll talk about some of the spooky stuff that we've encountered out there while we've investigated. So.
Sure. So, Benson Grist Mill was built in 1854 in Lake Point, which was then known as Twin Springs Creek. It was built by Ezra Taft Benson with the orders from Brigham Young. The mill served the community from 1854 to 1940, processing wheat, corn by the ton. In 1855, the mill site community became known as Richville. The community had a sawmill, also built by Taft. It also had Brigham Young's wool processing and flour mills. It was soon known as Milltown, Milton, Millvale, or as it is now known, Mills Junction.
Or essentially anything that anybody wanted to call it, essentially. Because, I mean, how many names does it have?
A lot.
Because we started with Lake Point, and then it was, what, Twin Creeks?
Richville.
No, before that, it was like Twin Creeks.
Oh, yeah,
and then-
Twin Creek.
Yeah, and then
Twin Springs.
And then we're Richville, and then we're Rich... I don't know. Seems like they couldn't quite pick up a right name.
Yeah, well, it's because it was a community. So, like, it still wasn't even a town back then. So it was just a bunch of people, like, get together.
Yet it sounds like a thriving metropolis of industry.
Yeah, of
For
1855.
Well, yeah, there's a mill, there's a wool. I mean,
Yeah. It was quite the place.
it was
to
like
be.
the Chicago of Utah in 1855.
Yeah. From what I read, like the mills, like because you had to get your flour from somewhere. The mills became like that cultural center area where people would hang out and get their flour and socialize. So yeah, for that area, that was the big to do. Let's go get our flour
And candy sticks.
and candy sticks. that's today.
No, I seen it in the movie. The kids get like a 10-cent candy stick. I don't know.
In 1856, the county seat was moved to the community.
Because this is all in 1 year. All that changed. All those names were all in 1 year.
It kind of went by multiple of those names.
That's nuts.
It's kind of like,
It's like, where are you guys going? Richland? I've never been there before. Where's that? Oh, it's over by the mill. Oh, why didn't you say Richfield? I don't know.
why didn't you say Milton?
Why didn't you say
Seriously.
Milton? I mean, yeah.
Crazy to think
Sorry,
of that.
continue.
In 1856, the county seat was moved to the community, but by 1889, the county seat was moved to Tooele, and most of the community was abandoned. And so, after the mill shut down, it laid abandoned and deteriorated for 40 years.
It's probably all the mosquitoes drove them away.
Yeah. I mean, I got a picture I'll post online of it, but the mill was in super bad shape. Like it was basically a skeleton standing there. So it was really bad.
Well, cool.
So, and then in 1983, the restoration process began to save the mill, and that was because the mill was once deemed the most significant structural landmark between Salt Lake City and Reno, Nevada. And it ended up being placed on the National Registry of Historical Sites in 1972.
What's the most significant structural landmark now? That big metal tree out in the middle of the desert?
Saltair.
Saltair? There's got to be something in Nevada.
Well, actually, no. Now it would be
The Flying J in Elko?
Wendover, or not Wendover. Yeah, Wendover now.
Winnemucca.
Yeah,
Elko?
Wendover Airfield. That'd be the most significant now, considering
The history.
the history of it. Yeah.
There's not even any casinos that are close by. I'm like, well, okay, I take that back. There are some, but I'm like, not anything big. It's
No.
Yeah.
No, nothing huge. And so today the site is a conglomeration of about 20 buildings, which includes the 3-story tall Benson Grist Mill. And most of the buildings were actually moved to the location and not actually part of it. Moved or built, really.
Totes perfect. So the mill was built in 1855 and then somehow lasted for over 100 years. I mean,
It's 150 years old now.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
With minimal restoration work, too. No, I'm sure there's no restoration
A
work.
lot of restoration work went into putting that thing back together.
So if you go there now, it's open to the public. It's not. I don't know. Is it? It's not run by any state parks, is it?
No, it's run by the historical society that restored it.
And so it's very, very generous of them to. I'm sure they take donations, but it's very generous of them that you can just go during business hours during the day.
Yeah, there is a donation box right as you walk in the gate there
Awesome.
by the pavilion. So
And
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's right. There is. And you can go and you can just tour these things and kind of get a little bit of a taste. And I want to say they actually have people that will come and dress up and kind of show you kind of some period. You know, like in the blacksmith shop, they'll have a guy that's, shoeing on, I don't know, making horseshoes, pioneer looking stuff.
and I've never been out there during the
I've
day.
never been out there during the
Neither
day.
neither
have
have
I.
They did have a Ren fair out there yesterday and today.
And they're doing
Oh,
a
cool.
pumpkin walk this month.
Yeah, they
too.
do pumpkin walks out there for Halloween and stuff.
Pumpkins don't walk.
But what's really neat is they have the big mill, which is the grist mill.
Right.
And then they have a much smaller mill, which is called the Twin Springs Mill.
Mm-hmm.
And that one was built in 2006, or start built in 2006, and started operation in 2009. So they actually built it to show you how the mills were used. And so that's an actual functioning mill that they used to show you how the mill life was back then, how the milling techniques and stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I think it'd be cool to see that thing actually in operation.
Yeah, that would be really
The same
cool.
with the loom too. And there's a room that we call the loom room that they have a giant loom in there, and it's like half knitted blanket, and it would just kind of neat to watch kind of how that whole thing works. But just in each room, in each cabin, each building, there's stuff. There's historical stuff.
Yeah. Last weekend, we were actually out at a potluck out at the mill, put on by some good friends of ours, and it was part potluck, part food, and part investigation.
Thanks, Tim.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
Food was good.
It was delicious.
It's actually what's fun is half as much fun as the investigating is. It's also fun that it just brings kind of a lot of people in the Utah paranormal community together. We had our friends, Shane and Dave from Bear River Paranormal came down.
Yep.
You had the boys from the EVP podcast, Tim and actually, I don't think the brothers were
Tim
there.
was the only one there
Just
from the
Tim.
podcast.
Yep.
So shame on you, Bucos. And then
We were there.
we were there from
Yes.
the Paranormal Peeps podcast.
We had Kent from Bacon Cell was there.
So several podcasts, and then
A couple
just
different
other
podcasts
teams, yeah.
and other teams.
And it's just fun because we're family, and it's fun to get together. But all right, so let's talk about the buildings there. So the first building there, probably the biggest one on site and probably the most famous, is the actual Benson Grist Mill. This is the 3-story grist mill there. And as you go in, there's just so many artifacts there on the first and the second floor that, they kind of talk about how the whole process worked. There's outfits, I want to say, in there.
Yeah, there's that mannequin that gets everybody every time when you walk in.
The white dress.
The white
like
dress.
headless.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a lot of pictures in there. There's little plaques that tell you kind of what each thing did and what it does. And
they even got
how they
some
were-
jars of like milled seeds and stuff in there on the one wall.
Yeah.
I'll
You
be
can actually like go over by to like where the well is, and you can see all the way down, and you can see water down underneath it, still down in the basement. It's really cool in there.
I'll be honest, when I go in, I'm usually like looking at my instruments and I go in the dark too most of the time, so it's all flashlights, and that's why the mannequin gets you. You come around the corner and there's a white figure standing there, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Well, and they say that there's a woman dressed in white, that's a spirit that wanders the big meal.
Yeah.
So what happened with you guys when you guys went in?
Which time?
Pick one.
Okay, well-
This is the fun thing about this is we've all investigated. There's so many times that we've got a lot of stories, and so we're gonna try to share with you our favorite stories from each different place out there. Terry, I'll let you go first.
I was just going to say, if you go back to the first episode, it was in the big mill where I had my dowsing rods tugged on by that spirit Kevin. And that was probably one of the coolest things that's ever happened in that mill was
too.
talking to Kevin.
And that was on the
That was on the
top
very
mill?
top floor. But there was one time I was there, and there was another team that was up investigating the top floor. It was kind of annoying. And so we went all the way down to the very bottom,
To the basement.
to the basement. And I usually don't go down there. And so I went down there and started talking to Kevin's mom on my dowsing rods and asked her to bring Kevin to me. So Kevin came down and started talking to us down in the basement on the dowsing rods. Then I heard the team in the top floor come walking downstairs and walking out of the mill like, well, we were talking to Kevin, but he disappeared and quit talking to us. So I was like, yes.
How many of you were in the basement of the mill?
There were
Just a couple.
four of it. There were four of us down there.
There's not a lot of room.
No, there's
down
not
there.
a lot of room. In fact, I was standing on the very bottom, and then somebody was standing across from me, and then two people were on the stairs, just sitting on the stairs. There was just four of us all squeezed down there. It was the night that was kind of a freebie, so there was a lot of people there that was investigating.
Oh.
It was the birthday party for somebody,
It was
and
the Paul Welch Invitational.
yeah. And so there was just a lot of people everywhere, and that was where we could just go where it was quiet. And the three people I had never investigated before, and they wanted to see how the dowsing rods worked. So it was really great for them to see it all in action, talking to Kevin and his mom. But it was even funnier to hear the other group that had been talking to Kevin come walking down the stairs and make a comment about how Kevin wasn't talking to them anymore, so they left.
That's awesome.
So, and then they, on that main floor too, when you first walk in, I'm not sure what it is. They have a box that's hanging from chains. I don't know if I've ever really looked to see what this box is, but we were able to get Kevin to push it and swing it back and forth for us one time too. That was really cool.
That is neat.
It is neat.
And not on camera, unfortunately. Right?
Actually, it is on camera, but I don't have the footage of it.
That'd be so cool.
I have my friend has the footage of it, but I do have footage of it.
But Kevin's one of the was one of the residents.
He's
And
not there
He's
anymore,
not there
sadly.
anymore. So up on the top floor was a family that lived up there. There was Kevin's mom. He had an older sister named Susan and a younger sister named Sarah. And then Kevin was about 14. Kevin's mom was wife number 3 in the family that they were in.
Yeah, there was a big polygamous family. that was up there.
And there was well, we don't need to go into all of them, I guess. It's like I've got a whole list of all of the spirits of Benson Grist Mill. But the thing is that the bummer to it is that a lot of them, at least Kevin and his whole family, are no longer there.
They've crossed over.
They all crossed. They were there. They were waiting for. They were trying to find. I think it was Kevin's brother.
I remember.
If I remember right, is that they couldn't quite find him, and they wanted to cross as a family, and somehow they must have found them. Because I know that one time when we were out there, Tim grabbed you, Elisa.
Yep, it was
and
me.
says, "I come here. Somebody wants to talk to you," and it was like the last of Kevin's family that asked to be crossed, and so you crossed them, and that chapter came to a sad close because they were so much fun to talk to. Kevin had really high energy. He really liked our family. I wanted to come home with us one time, and we told him no. But he tugged on Terry's rods and gave her a good startle with it. and then he wouldn't do it again. I think your spirit guides wouldn't allow him to do it again. But he did it with mine the same night. We had him pulling on mine, and he probably tugged on those things 20, 25 times. And the way I describe it is if you imagine a fishing pole out there just kind of sitting out on the water, and then when a fish strikes it, you see the tip of the pole kind of dip. It was like that, just constantly just tugging, just doom, 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 doom. And it was so crazy. But it was like, I'm not doing this. This is so nuts. And he just had a lot of energy, very positive energy. He was one of my favorite spirits to go talk to out there. And now I'm sad that he's not there.
Yeah, but it's also nice to see that they've gone on and they've gone to the other side.
Totally.
You know, so because we don't want them to, we don't want to force them to stay around just for our entertainment in that avenue. It's not fair to the souls that are left.
So Kevin, if you're listening on the other side, like I'm sure you guys,
we miss you.
Yes, we miss you. Come visit again. But so, and then another instance I had on those stairs was a friend of ours named Kayleen. She and I we were going up, and everybody else was already upstairs. And she was talking about how she had some leg pains. I'm like, well, can I help you up there? She's like, no, I got it. And we're just going up the stairs, and I told her a little bit of a funny thing that had happened up there. And she laughs, and then I have it. She actually had her recorder going, and you hear a spirit kind of sitting there. We don't hear it live, but it got recorded. It says, I help her. And then it makes some other noise that we can't quite really understand. But she played it for me, and I actually have a recording. We'll see if we can get it played for you.
So cool. It's so terrible. Ow. It's hard. Get up. It's so cool. It's so terrible. Ow. It's hard.
So hopefully you could hear that there. And that was really cool. And she was gracious enough to give me permission to play that. And what's cool about this is this was played from her recorder, and I was recording with my phone, and then that's how clear it came through. Because what you're hearing a recording of a recording. And so that is what you would call a Class A EVP. It's clear, it's loud, it's distinct.
It's one of the best ones I've ever heard.
It's one of the best ones I've ever heard. Especially the ones that I've been a part of, that I've been witnessed personally. So, but that's me for the mill, for the most part. What about you, Elisa? What have you got?
Well, I didn't really get the memo that we were doing our favorite things that's happened there. I just did what happened this last time.
Well, just tell us a story.
I don't know. That was really cool, though. I have to admit that.
Yeah. So, me, Josh, and Jamie went upstairs to the very top, and we did Thessie's method again with the spirit box. And so I had my headphones on. We did the spirit box session, and they were asking questions, and quite a few of them were pretty dead on, because I think it's a hit and miss, right? But this time it was kind of, I don't know, what's the word?
There's a lot of hit and a lot less miss.
Yes. Okay. So, let's start with when I very first put the headphones on. I instantly got a angry male that came through, and he said, "Answer my questions." And he was like, just mean. And at that point, the room got dark for you guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
During that time.
Very dark.
Yeah.
Very, very
I had
dark.
my eyes closed, so I wasn't paying attention. And then Jamie says, "Why are you so angry?" And then the spirit box said, "I have been for a while."
Mm-hmm.
And then Jamie said, "How many of you are there?" And then the spirit box said, "Get out." And then Jamie again asks, "Are you stuck here?" And the answer was, "No, I'm not." So then it kind of gets quiet for a little while. There's no answers to any of the questions for a little bit. And then I get one that says, through the spirit box, that says, "Come back, he's listening." And then Josh says, "There's no reason to leave. We're here to talk to you." And then instantly it says, "I'm here." So.
The same spirit?
Yeah.
He says, get out. And he's like, okay, I'm here. It's like,
Well, no, the one that said, come back, he's listening.
oh, okay.
So anyways, that was just a really cool spirit box session that happened there up on the top.
That was pretty. It was pretty neat. And that was one of Josh and my first experiences up there, actually, because we'd never been to the top floor of the mill.
I'd never been in the mill.
Well, and I'd only been in the mill the previous time and only on the main floor. So I'd never been up there, and to have that experience was pretty cool.
How many times have you guys been out there?
3.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
The first time ever we went out to Benson Grist Mill is when we met Elisa for the first time.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's true.
She was our tour guide.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was fabulous.
Well, we only hung out in your group for like the first like half a session, and then we left.
It was so blasted hot and humid.
That's-
Oh my goodness.
That's one of the downsides is usually, so it's an outdoor venue. And so when you're going from building to building and it's not heated, artificially, there's no gas or there's no power to any of the buildings, honestly. So it's whatever the air temperature is. So you usually don't go out there in the wintertime because it would be blasted cold and everywhere you went. So we go out when it's warm. And unfortunately, at the top of a mill with no airflow, it is
Hot.
Stifling.
It's incredibly uncomfortable when it's
Yeah.
warm.
Well, and when you get into a group of like new people that don't say anything when you're leading a group, it gets so boring.
Oh,
So boring.
Yeah,
So when they all stare at you and be like, dance, monkey.
I know.
Give us a show.
And I'm like, I'm not about it. If you guys want to learn how to hunt, you got to figure it out yourselves.
Like, you paid to be here. It's your investigation.
that's why
You
I
ask the
always
questions.
stuck all the newbies in my groups because I dance.
well, and that was the thing too. Like, it was like Jamie and I were the ones asking questions, and the rest of the group was like
Silent.
quiet. And it's like, wait a second.
Yeah, go do your own thing.
They just want to see something levitate.
I want to see something
Well,
levitate.
so do I, but it doesn't happen. But yeah,
That's pretty much it for me.
Yeah.
Josh, what are some of your funnest, most funnest?
That was the only time they've
like-
ever been in the big
Oh,
mill.
I've
So
never
that's
been
all
in the
they've
mill.
got.
Yeah, that was it.
That's all they
So
got.
that's honestly like we did the Estes method at the prison, and kind of got a couple things that were good, but this was like bang bang bang. I was like, wow, this is really cool. It's working.
Awesome.
That's cool. I want to listen to it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then let's move on to the next location. Let's just go in order, kind of. Let's go with the Little Mill that's right next to it.
Okay.
You guys were in there for a while, weren't you, last week?
Yeah.
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 Go for it.
Okay. So the small mill it's really small, right? There's only like a straight walking space.
Yeah, there's
And-
just the one level. Well, there's 2 levels, but you can only go in on like the one
Yeah.
top level.
Yeah, and it's not very big. But we put up the flux.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. We use the Flux 2 in there.
Yeah. And we asked if there was a male or female, and it lit up green for female. And then Jamie asked, "Are you widowed?" And then I got an EVP that's really high pitched that says, "Yep." And we kind of heard that with our ears, right? But it was like a tiny little squeak. And then Josh asked, is there a child in here with us? And then I got another EVP that said, and it doesn't correlate with it, but it said, it's over. So I don't know. I don't know what that, and it was kind of a female or a child sounding. And then I got a female that hummed, like, right in my recorder. No, that's pretty much what happened. I didn't get like a whole ton of evidence in there. It just seemed kind of quiet, but
It did.
Yeah. It was quiet for the most part.
what about you guys?
I think I think I've only been in there twice. I think the first time we went to the small mill, and then this last time we went to the small mill. The second time we didn't go in there, but the first time we went there, I really enjoyed that because we were just doing a dowsing rod session in there,
Yeah.
That's where we ended up talking to a female who died of the flu, who had 2 children, and looking at like the data of the place, it sounds like it's the gal who owned the wedding dress. I think her name was Mary.
Yeah, Mary.
Yeah, she's usually over in the quilt room.
Yeah. But it sounds a lot like her story. So it was pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, that was the funnest time. And I do remember because we were in there and I have these light up dowsing rods.
I was just going to say this too.
They look like light. If you guys haven't seen these before, there's got to be videos of them somewhere.
Oh, YouTube's got them.
Yeah.
Or if they don't have them, they will have them.
They look like freaking lightsabers.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool.
But I remember Mike was walking by. He's
With
like,
his group.
With his group. And he's like, someone's in the mill. He's like, oh, wait, that's the Raymonds.
Yeah. He's like, they got these light up dowsing rods. They're so cool.
It's like, mine's got glow in the dark
like Star
tips,
Wars.
but you guys have like lightsabers.
Yeah.
Too bad they don't hum when you light them up.
That'd be awesome.
I just make the noise.
They cross them. Vroom, vroom, vroom.
I just make the noises when I use them.
Or when you have them tapped together, like like when lightsabers clash.
That would be
Sparks
awesome.
fly all everywhere. Start fires. Cool.
What about you guys?
I've only actually investigated in there like one time, maybe twice. But the only thing that really comes to my memory, the very first time we went in there, we were doing a flashlight session where you take like a mini mag light and you turn it to where it just barely turns on so they can turn it on and off. And we had one on each side of the room. And there was 2 little kids that were playing with them back and forth. And it was really cool to see them playing back and forth with these 2 flashlights.
Yeah.
Were they actually answering questions yes and no with them?
Oh. Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
flashlight sessions.
I've had, it may have even been the same time. I think of one time when I was in there doing flashlights, and our friend Castle was in there with us.
That wasn't
Okay.
good, Castle. You were
So I was in there at one point with Castle, and we were doing flashlights, and I was actually holding one of the flashlights, just the very back tip of it, and then there were the other ones as well that were on the tables, and yeah, it was very much okay. Turn this one off now. Turn that one on. Now turn this one off. Turn that one on, and it was just very on cue.
Yeah.
So I know some people don't like the flashlight method, but I mean, it was so on point that
I've gotten some very intelligent responses out of my
for sure.
flashlights.
Oh, me
before.
too. Fort Douglas, I had an amazing flashlight session
Yeah.
over there.
I mean, there is the law of physics and thermodynamics that will
The
cause...
heat
that
causes it to retract and expand.
Yeah. And so there's like that part of it. So it's...
I can buy that when it's random, but when it's so active, like just spot on,
Yeah.
turn that one off, boom, it's off. Now turn this one on, boom, it goes on.
Right. And if you have 2 set up, right, and you're like, hey, this one on the left is yes, and this one on the right is no, and they're answering intelligent questions, and like 3 of them in a row are no, and the yes doesn't turn on, I mean, that's showing more of an intelligent movement and response versus just the heating and the cooling of the
Right.
element in the back.
But back to the small mill is what I have noticed is that there is a lot of female interaction. A lot of either children or female interaction.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that is because in the corner of the small mill, there's a little plaque that talks about how the women used to grind their corn on these rocks for days, for like 3 or 4 days or something, when they were going to get married. And they would do it to try to show their husbands what they were capable of doing. And so they had some stones there, and then they have like another thing that they grind the corn with. And so I wonder if it has any correlation to do with that, but I find that interesting.
Yeah, it might. I didn't know that was even in there. That's cool.
Wasn't that the Native American?
Yeah.
It was the Native Americans who the women would have to, for days, grind the corn, make meal.
Show me you're worth marrying.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That'd be awful.
That would be terrible.
And then the mill. Then the mills came in and it's like, I can just go get my corn. I don't have to spend 3 days.
Just put it on this thing. Even just the
But they
ones, even the ones that weren't drawn by water, you just make the donkey run around like 2 circles, and it crushes it. They like scrape it off, and like, here we go.
Well,
So when they wouldn't do for the weddings or when they were getting married, they would do it to 3 to 4 hours every day. Sounds terrible.
Man,
Yeah, it sounds
Awful.
awful.
imagine the calluses and the tired arms.
Yeah.
Blisters.
But the other cool thing is that's on the far right corner. I mean, would be the far right corner in there, right?
Yeah.
But the side that's closest to the benches, they have a hand mill in there. I don't know if you've seen that. It's right on the table, and you can just crank it. And it's not easy. Like, it's still challenging to move it, but it's still that's still going to be easier to do that than it is to take a rock on a rock and go back and forth.
Yeah. See, science comes along and technology.
But yeah, but that makes me
Technology.
wonder if that's why there's so many female interactions in the
That's
small
a
mill.
possibility.
That could be. It also could just be the fact that mills were that place that people would go to get those items. And I would imagine that because of the way the family structure was, the man was out working, and so it was the women who were going to the mills to get the flour to go
Their
cook.
way of life.
Yeah.
I also wonder if, I know in the Scottish culture when they would make like kilts and stuff, with the wool and stuff, they would do a thing where they all come together and they dye it and they kind of move the fabric around, and there's a whole song that they would sing as they're doing stuff. Basically, it kind of makes it like a big social event, and it almost makes me wonder if that they would go to these places and kind of grind their mill together, all kind of sitting in a circle and working stones and telling stories and
Oh, I bet.
singing songs, gossiping about how their husbands snore and fart in their sleep and
Right?
complaining. Because I'm sure they've always, yeah.
Got to be something better than
Married
dinner.
women always complain about their husbands when they get together.
Is that true?
Never.
No.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
I
Mike's
wouldn't
lying.
dream of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else got anything for the Little Mill?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay. Let's stick on that end of the complex. So going west or east from the Little Mill. Well, actually, just right next to the Little Mill, there is a fire pit. And down in the fire pit, I don't go down there much. I've only been down there a few times.
We tried going down last time. Ooh, it's overrun.
I've only been
yeah.
down there one time.
It's a
There's
mess.
it's the
And I
weeds,
didn't stay very long.
It's very overgrown, and there's only one spirit that resides down there, and it's a Type 3,
Inhuman.
an inhuman spirit. And I have heard EVPs. I do have one, but I don't think it's good enough that we could that it's worth trying to put in here. But again was with our friend Castle, and he was taunting it, and we got a pretty good no answer on one of them. But again, I don't think it would come through very well. But I've been down there a few times where you can feel him. He's got plenty of juice. He's not like he's all that weak, and you can hear him and you can feel him kind of moving around. You can feel his presence as it moves around.
And every once in a while you can hear it.
Yeah. I've heard him, and apparently the owls there's owls that will roost up in the big mill, and the owls are it's like a Native American thing. They're a protective bird, and they actually keep him from going into the mill.
Huh.
That's what I've been told.
Wow.
Last time we were out there,
We saw a baby
we
owl.
saw a baby owl that was out there.
white.
Oh yeah,
Fluffy.
right next to
The
the mill.
little fluffy
Oh
little
my gosh,
baby
it was
owl was
so
so cute. Jinx.
It was a furry little guy. I actually felt really bad for it because it wasn't flying. It wasn't able to fly.
It was like in the process of molting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so they got that half fuzzy, half
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
mangy
Yeah.
look.
It looked really mangy
Yeah.
and just not in a happy state. But
But yeah, it's always pretty negative down there. It's just
Yeah.
like it feels thick.
That's why I
It
didn't stay
feels
down
heavy.
there very long the one time I went down there.
and then there's
That and
the
it's still
mosquitoes,
overgrown.
and then there's all the
I haven't had any mosquito issues down there. But Jamie and I had an interesting encounter the first time we went down there.
Oh yeah.
Tell us.
So Josh and I went down there. We were sitting on one of the benches, and we were just kind of asking some questions.
We're going to hear a pop here real quick.
There's a cat.
So, anyways, we went down to the fire pit, and we were just sitting there on the bench. It wasn't so overgrown that time we went, and we're sitting there, and you can hear like little critters scurrying around in the weeds behind us. And then at one point, though, we asked. I can't remember what the question was.
I can't remember either.
But we heard like this crashing coming from behind us. Like it sounded like a bull moose coming out of the brush behind where we were
Wow.
sitting. And we both leapt up off the bench and we're looking around trying to see what just come crashing through. And there was nothing. And yeah, it was
That happened to us over in the amphitheater.
Yeah.
There was something stomping around out there, and we could never figure out what it was. It was crazy.
That's happened a few times in the amphitheater.
See, I was worried like
crazy.
coon or something, right? Like would come crashing through, but
This sounded huge.
it did.
Though.
It sounded like a deer, like a
yeah, like
'cause
big.
right behind,
Wow.
right behind on the riverside. Basically it's a swamp. It's like a wetlands. There's a bunch of reeds and stagnant water back there. So if anything's back there, you know, it may be like a beaver or
Muskrats.
muskrats or something like that. Right? But those aren't big animals. I mean,
Yeah.
this was like, it sounded like a deer was coming
It
through
had
the reeds.
size.
It had
Yep.
size.
Full board.
And we
Yeah,
jump
it
and
was-
look, and then nothing's moving.
That happens a lot with that.
It was crazy.
I
Yeah.
would say like the first few times that I had been there, I've been there a lot. And the first few times I've been there, that has happened every time. But I haven't been down there maybe the last 3 times. So
Well, we tried going down there.
Yeah.
Three of
Yeah,
us
we
did.
tried,
We
but-
didn't.
I wonder
it
if-
was really overgrown.
Camera
so-
knocked over. Josh broke it.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
it was
So we
a
were
bad
done.
night.
I know the one at the
Was that
amphitheater.
just last week?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I broke an adapter.
Yeah.
So I need to get a new one.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. Happens. That's why.
So-
That's why if you notice, like we stopped, like the camera went away and went into a bag. 'Cause it was like,
Yeah.
It was done.
It
I
was
have
done.
to wonder if it might have been that inhuman spirit, though.
well, no. What I did is I put it on a.
No, not that broke the camera.
Oh.
I mean just what you hear out in the in the reeds.
Yeah.
I would think so
If it
because
goes over to make
something that big, like, I mean, it was full on like big noise. Like,
because it scares you. You're just like, what the crap is that?
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because you don't want to be in the way of that.
no, like, because I mean, you think you're like, well, you're in town, right? There's a park and there's like, this is surrounded by housing communities and stuff like that, but there are still lots
know,
of deer
deer,
who run around.
You know,
and so
we get mountain lions that come down into the populated parts here and
yeah, so I mean,
elk, moose.
and they have the advantage because they're moving and you're not.
Well, and if like the fire pit is kind of tucked down in these trees, and so it's a smaller area, so then there's not a lot of place to run to.
There's
No.
there's 2 ways out.
Yeah, so when you're hearing something that huge coming at you, there's not a lot of room for you to
Well,
go.
there used to be 2 ways out. Now it's pretty much just one, unless you
yeah.
want to kind of blaze the trail where it
Right.
used to be.
Oh, just that long trail on the side. That's where we
Yeah.
went down.
You kind of got to go back around, where the little walkway is. There's a little wooden walkway for a little small portion.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, the fire pit's kind of fun. Like I said, there's only that one negative spirit that's down there, and I typically don't try to go seek him out just because I don't try to seek out the negatives usually. So let's go to the next one. This is probably Terry's favorite. Right next to the just to the east of the little mill and the fire pit is what we call the Forsyth cabin. And Terry's had some fun stuff. Elisa's had some fun stuff in this one. Go ahead,
I've been
ladies.
in there a little bit. There's just a girl, Abigail, in there that we like to go in and talk to. She usually hangs out up in the back of a loft up there, but this last time we were in there, we were able to get her to come down and talk to us. You and Annika were in there by yourselves for a while I was out, so I don't know what was happening while I wasn't there. But
Well, we just got down on the floor, so just sat down. And because I think, for kids, what's important is that you get eye level, right? That's less intimidating. And she seemed very timid, really sweet. And so we sat down and had the Boo Bear out and was hoping that she would interact with it. And as soon as because you can feel, I can feel, where spirits are sometimes. And so for her, I felt like she was in that back corner and it felt like she was starting to come closer. And right when she started coming closer, this negative entity came in and just blocked her completely. And you feel that, right? So all of a sudden this negative feeling comes over you and you're like, oh man, we were so close to get her to come up. And so we had to, tell him that he is not supposed to be there and let her be and get out of her space, and pushed him out basically. And then, and And by doing so, whenever I deal with negative entities and try to get them out, makes my hands really tingly. Like they're going to sleep almost. Like there's static in my hands is really what it feels like. And so I had to get your stones.
Yeah.
Your
some
selenite.
and some rainbow fluorite.
Yeah. And the selenite, I tried the selenite at first, and the selenite just wasn't doing it. It wasn't enough. And in all honesty, I've never really had that happen before, where it just wasn't enough. And so then you gave me the rainbow fluorite and added it to the selenite, and it went away within probably 20, 30 seconds.
It's the magic of the rainbow fluorite.
It was awesome. I think I need to get some.
It's my stone.
But yeah, so
And then after that, she was too scared to do anything. She was worried about being reprimanded by that one spirit that had come in.
yeah, because it just felt like he was like, nope, you're not doing anything. I'm here. You can't, and just very demanding. And so we just kind of put a damper on the rest of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, we were in there last time we were there a couple months ago. We had the Boo Bear put up in the rafters, and she'd actually come over and had touched and played with the Boo Bear a little bit.
Because that's generally where she is.
Because that's generally where she was, or where she is. And so she touched it a few times that night, but we couldn't get anything out of her the second night.
No.
So, but yeah.
And that spirit, so he's not like he's a malevolent.
No, he's just a nasty
is
type
He is
too.
an ornery
Grumpy.
turd.
He's an ornery
He's
turd.
ornery.
His name's Gustav.
And I would say he's like
He's
50, 60s.
50.
55 is what I have in my notes.
Yep, he's 55, and
So-
he goes back and forth between the Forsyth and the
And
blacksmith.
the blacksmith shop.
cat and the blacksmith shop. He wanders
So
back and forth.
he's just a
between
cranky
those
old
two.
man. It reminds me of a neighbor I used to have. That good guy if you got to know him, but otherwise, like all the kids were scared of him because he was always the get off my lawn, get out of my yard.
Yeah. Yeah,
He's
that's
just nasty.
And
Yeah.
it just seems
He
like
just puts
Gustav's
off
kind of that
nothing,
way.
but nothing good comes from him.
I'm sure he's gentle in his own. He's got him talking about what he loves. Just got to find out what it is.
Yep.
So, as you mentioned, he does go. Did you guys have anything you wanted to add for the Forsyth?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to add any investigation stuff because
Never been in there.
No, we've been in there.
Have we?
Yeah, we went in there with Elisa.
Oh, that's right.
We had one word on the spirit box, not spirit box. Good lord, the Obulus that said threshold, and everyone's like, "What's a threshold?"
Just step over one.
And then I went and explained the meaning of a threshold. So that was fun. But that was the only time we were in there. So, but I wanted to talk about it's called.
Oh, you have the history on it, huh?
Yeah, I got the history
Where it
on
came
it.
from.
And so, because we call it the Forsyth Cabin, it's like, I'm like, why is it called the Forsyth Cabin? And it's called that because it was actually built by Andrew Barker Forsyth in 1872 for his bride, Emily Elizabeth Moss. What's interesting is that both Emily and Andrew aren't from Utah, not originally. So Andrew was the only son of John Forsyth and Sarah Freeland Barker. He was born in 1847 in Port Richmond, Pennsylvania. So when he was 17, he moved to Utah with his family in the Milo Anderson with the Milo Anderson Company. And that was actually Milo Anderson's last trip from the Midwest to Utah. So he was actually a bishop in the LDS church. And then during Andrew's life in Utah, he held many different jobs. He was a carter, which is they have those boards with like little, I don't know, like they kind of look like Velcro, and they work wool with them.
Oh, yeah,
Between
yeah.
the two of them.
Between the two of them,
Pull it.
they pull the wool. So he was a carter. He was a postmaster of E.T. City. He was a constable, a school
City.
E.T. City. It was E.T.
Perfect.
Not a clue. A constable, a school trustee, a farmer, and he even fought in the Black Hawk War in 1866.
Wow.
So his wife Elizabeth wasn't even born in the U.S. She was born in 1854. She's 7 years younger. But she was born in Essex, England. Her family immigrated to America when she was 7 years old in 1861, and then they came to Utah the same year with the John R. Murdoch Company. And then in 1869, the family moved to E.T. City, which is now called Lake Point.
Wait, another name for the same place?
Yeah.
Lake Point, E.T. City.
Yeah. They just got all sorts of crazy stuff.
That's where the aliens used to land.
Yeah.
So you thought it was all out of Skinwalker Ranch.
No, it's an ET. That's why it's extraterrestrial city. Andrew and his wife, Emily, had 10 children. 3 of them they had in that little cabin.
Wow.
10 children in that little
So
tiny
this
thing.
this cabin's probably only
100 square feet?
oh, not even that. No, maybe. Yeah, well, 10 foot by 10 foot. It's probably like a 10. It's probably like a 15 by 15 cabin. But it's not real big. It's not a big cabin. I mean, there's a small room on one side, small room on the other side, and then they have ropes that kind of keep you in the middle of it.
Yeah, and it's not very big. And I was talking with Jamie earlier tonight, and I was like, you know, there's all these little small places, right? You had 10 children. I get the having 10 children, but 10 children have to be conceived. How do you do that in such a tiny space?
Oh, they didn't care back then?
You work the kids so hard that they could sleep through
Anything.
anything.
They'd have to.
And you are really quiet. There's none of this fancy
Then the fancy stuff.
moaning and screaming stuff.
Oh my. The interesting thing I found about Emily is that she would often tell her children and her grandchildren she'd tell them tales of her buying beads from the Indians and helping her father boil down water from the Great Salt Lake.
Ew.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ew.
You.
Salt
I'm
water.
sure it was gross even after it was boiled.
Yeah.
Well, I was wondering if they boiled it down for the salt.
I'm sure they were industrious enough to drink the water and take the salt for whatever.
Ugh, it's still
Nothing
gross.
goes to waste. Well, it's what you got, right?
Yeah, but that's a good crepa distance from the Great Salt Lake to that area.
Yeah, just a stone's throw. These people walked everywhere.
Depends on how high the water was in the lake.
Oh, that's true.
Well, the lake was a lot higher back then. I think. I don't know. But still,
Quite
that's still
possible.
that's still what, 10 miles? Like,
Well, but they also, so the Forsyth cabin though also did used to be a
Closer
little
to the lake.
closer to the lake from where. I mean, still not that close. You know, it's still at least a mile from where it currently is.
Yeah.
Oh, probably more than
no,
that.
it's more like 10 miles.
Is it really?
Yeah, because it's like,
Oh, 10.
well,
maybe
it's
5.
Well, okay, 5.
From that rock to the lake.
2.5,
no,
guys.
from the rock. I was saying from the rock to where it's at now is about 10ish miles.
5
Oh, I don't think
kilometers.
it's even that.
It was a
All
5K
right,
race.
I'm going to pull up Google Maps while we're talking about it. And I'm gonna, but either way, and they maybe they just took a cabin not a cabin, a wagon, and went and got a bunch and then brought it back in barrels, and then I don't know, who knows.
Yeah, because the cabin was originally put up at Adobe Rock.
Yeah, so Adobe Rock. If you're driving out there, if you've been out there, there's a big rock formation just on your left, just before you get to Stansbury. And this cabin was built just, it says, to the west, right? Just to the west of the rock.
Yeah, just to the west of the rock.
So probably on the other side of the road. And then it was relocated in the 90s, I want to say,
Yeah, that's about right.
over to the Benson Grist Mill site, where it could be preserved and loved and
And be part of
be
history.
part of history. So we can all go and talk to the ghosts there. So
That was definitely not the original
I'm
intention.
sure the ghost was totally the original intention. We're going to make a haunted place. In the schoolhouse. Now this building, people think it was built like a long time ago. Like it was an actual schoolhouse.
Yeah, like it was an old frontier schoolhouse.
It was built so that the lovely lady who is out there, I forget her name at the moment, who always waits there in the office, waiting for us to do all of our ghost investigations. Very nice lady. But her son built that as an Eagle project with his scout troop. So the building is not more than a decade or even 2 old. It's not very old.
No, and it looks like a building that's up on like not sleds, but like It's like up on like 4x4s.
Like
Yeah, you could literally put a forklift underneath it, lift it up, and move it.
and I think it probably did.
Probably how they got it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the actual desks inside are all legitimate old school desks.
And there's an old potbelly stove in the one corner too.
And then there's the teacher's desk in one corner.
And a dunce hat in the
Dunce
other.
cap in the opposite corner. I mean,
They did a really good job making it look like an
They
authentic
did.
schoolhouse.
They did. And the spirits there actually treat it as a school. So in the schoolhouse, there is a Native American teacher. We call her Lainey. We couldn't pronounce her. One time I've heard her name pronounced by one of our friends that just got an impression, and she said with answer with dowsing rods, yes, that is it. But even he couldn't say it again a second time. And so a friend of ours named Peaches is a medium, and she's like, all right, lady, I can't say your name. What do you want to be called? And so we call her Lainey. And she is a Paiute. She came from there is actually a reservation down west of St. George that is a Paiute area, and she was from down there. She was, I think I have in here, let's check in my notes here. She was born in the 1890s and lived all through the early 1900s, and she loved teaching. She didn't choose the profession. She was kind of told she was going to be a teacher. And she has 3 students that she watches over. Well, first of all, describing her, she has her hair in 2 braids that kind of go down the side of her head and then longer, down past her shoulders. She likes glow balls. We found that out. But
Yeah.
she won't let you play with them.
We asked permission to have the ball inside the schoolhouse.
Glow
Otherwise-
balls.
Yeah. Just like the little balls, like glow
just
sticks, but there's
Glow
like a ball.
sticks, but yeah.
Oh, I don't.
We usually take one with us every time we go out there.
We haven't used
forgot
one
the
in a
last couple
while.
times.
Oh, gotcha.
But she likes the glow. It reminds her of a lantern. Although the kids are not allowed to play with balls inside the building.
Well, it's proper school etiquette.
Right?
Right?
She doesn't like it when people write on her chalkboard, yet people always seem to do it. It
Oh
really
no,
ticks her
she
off.
shocked me good time when I touched her chalkboard one time.
She doesn't like people to sit in her desk.
Unless you ask permission.
Yep.
And even then, sometimes she'll say no. She has to like you. And then there's one desk in particular that she doesn't like people to sit in, and that's because that's her favorite student, who happens to be a Paiute boy. We call him Henry, and he's age 10. So he's the fave, and it's the middle seat in the back. So just if you go out there, don't sit there, sit in any of the other ones. Honestly, it's hard to fit inside those desks.
Yes, for those of us who are ample-bodied,
Yes.
the desks are really tight. So, like, the good thing is the front row, there are seats you can sit in with no, like, desk in the front. So, like, if you're more ampled, you can sit there and not have to worry.
Well, the way that the desks work is that the desk comes off the back of the chair.
In front, yeah.
And so the desk is attached to the back of the chair in front of you. So that's why the front row has no desks, because it's just the chair.
Yeah, which does make it easier for us to sit
No,
down.
it doesn't.
But those front seats are those ample. I like you said that. Yeah.
Ampled.
I'm just fat. So there are a couple other students in there with her. You have Miles Mason, is the white boy who sits in the middle. He's age 12. That's the name I have. You have something different?
I have Mason Matthews.
Mason Matthews. Okay. These are my notes.
know.
Just maybe your notes are more right.
I don't know.
And then I have Angela. There's a Hispanic girl, age 8. She tends to wander. She's not always in there. And then, of course, there is Henry, the boy in the back that she loves so much. And
I was gonna say these spirits were from St. George, right? I mean, at least
Well,
the Paiute,
no.
right?
I don't know. The teacher
Lainey is,
The
but I don't
teacher
know
is.
where the kids came from.
Well, that's the thing that's interesting. Is like, you're talking a couple 100 miles.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, has anyone figured out how she found the schoolhouse?
I asked her that one time, and I don't know exactly why she's there, but she's on that piece of land because she is protected by the chief. Because that side of the river is they consider that the Native American territory. And so even though he's a Ute Indian and she's Paiute, they still kind of come together and work together.
She doesn't really wander either and go across the bridge to the other side.
I invited her. We did
we were doing a reading.
Well, there's a reading. There's also, we did a presentation. I was telling her how we were kind of educators as well, the group that we used to be with. And we were doing a PowerPoint presentation in the amphitheater, which is just on the other side of the bridge. And she said she really wanted to come, but she didn't come across the bridge to come see it. And I was really sad because I thought she would have liked seeing my presentation. But at any rate, yeah, she doesn't wander. Some of the kids will here and there. They've been over to play with Abigail in the Forsyth cabin, even though she doesn't get to really go out. But they're a lot of fun. You get a lot of energy. This last time we were there, Tim was saying they really want to hug you. And I'm like, they can hug me. And my gosh, I just kept getting hit. Just chill, chill. And it was funny. I was giggling like the Pillsbury Doughboy. It was funny. And because I was like, I just was giggling every time they'd hit me. And it's like, ooh, and they're like, they love it. They think it's hilarious. And they were giving out hugs to a whole bunch of people in our group that was there. And it was just fun. That's my favorite place to go at the whole Benson Grist Mill. I could spend the whole night sitting over there in the schoolhouse, just because the kids and the teacher are so awesome. But the group in there before us, which I believe my wife was in, wore them out a bit. They were giving the hugs, but Lainey couldn't do a lot of things because she was tired.
Well, while we were in there, there's that entity that's outside the schoolhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Some people say that he's a drunk guy. Some people say that he's like mentally disabled. That's why we think that he's drunk. And he always tries to get inside the schoolhouse, but can't. And he was trying to get in pretty hard while we were in there, that I went and stood in front of the door to kind of use my protection against it, because it just didn't feel right inside there. And then he moved over from the door, was peeking in the window, and then finally went away. And then when he went away, everything changed inside of there. And we had the Boo Bear in there, and we actually were able to get Mason to touch the Boo Bear and get it to light up while we were in there, which was really cool.
Yeah, they loved it. And this guy, so we did find out that there's the chief on the bridge, was a kind of a shaman type of a guy, and he actually has put a protection on the schoolhouse so that nothing unwelcomed could even get in. And so to this handicapped guy, he tries to go in, he wants to go in, but to him the door is always closed and locked, and he can't get in. And it's a protection that was put on it to protect the children and Lainey from, which is really neat.
Yeah, and he keeps trying. He always tries to get in. As I was standing there in the door, I could feel his energy trying to push that door open while I was standing there. And then he finally just gave up and went away.
And that happened. That same thing happened the last time. The last time we were there, because we all investigated together inside the schoolhouse, and it was that same.
Yep, just right out that door.
Yep.
Did you guys get out there this last time?
No.
We didn't.
I've only ever been to the schoolhouse once.
Oh yeah.
Now the first time that we were in there with dowsing rods, with Terry's first time with rods, was out there. And tell them about what you had Lainey do. That was you guys kind of connected. Yeah,
she moved the dowsing rods all the way up to my shoulders and then back forward.
So it's almost like 180 degrees, pointing away from Terry, and then she just kind of pushed them all the way out and around, all the way back, so they're touching her shoulders.
And then had them,
and it's something she's never really,
and then had them come back forward.
She's never really done that for me.
There's very few spirits that have the energy that are strong enough to do that.
And she can do that, but you guys, like I said, you guys wore her out to where she was moving my rods a bit, and she could answer small things, but they weren't the normal big responses.
See, and that was like right after she shocked me for touching her chalkboard. And so I think it was just like I was apologizing and then got talking to her on the dowsing rods, and just, through the connection and stuff like that, and just the respect that I ended up having for her. I think that was where the connection was kind of made.
And I love that you use that word respect, because when we go out there a lot, we've been out there many, many times, and you develop a relationship with the spirits,
See, there's people that have gone out there and have said they've seen, they've had chalk thrown at them before. And it's like, what are you doing out there to, I don't know if they throw chalk out there.
I don't buy it so much because that's not her nature. It doesn't sound right.
There was one group that went out there, and I will leave their name nameless, But they did a video, and this kid, he kind of has the straight flat brim hat. He's got the dark, thick glasses. He looks like a Zach clone.
A wannabe Zach Baggins.
Wannabe Zach Baggins. But he put up a camera out there, and he's like, "We're going to talk to the demon that stays in the schoolhouse."
There's no demon
Right.
in the schoolhouse.
And so
Can I just take that dunce hat and just put it right on this guy?
Yeah, right.
And so it's like, okay, well, that's your thought process on that one. And it's like, not every place has got a type 3.
Yeah.
Now, Benson just happens to have a couple, at least 2 that run around.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't mess with them when we're out there. We kind of avoid them, and we have great investigations.
Yep.
Do you have any stories from the schoolhouse, Lisa?
No. Pretty much all of mine have been with you guys.
Yeah, because there was one time out there when we found out the one boy's name was Mason. You kind of got a connection with him because you were telling about how your son's name.
Yeah,
And
because
you were
they're
talking
about
about-
the same age.
They're about the same age. You're talking about your boys, and
Yeah, because
It-
my oldest is named Mason, and so we had a little bit of a connection. And then I do remember there was one time where so for me, I generally feel the negative entities first, and that's what I pick up on. Not intentional. They're just stronger. And so for most of my life, that's all I've ever felt. I haven't felt the positive entities for a while, or I hadn't started feeling them until the last few years. But anyway, so when we would go out to the schoolhouse, I remember just feeling like I was being watched. You know, like as you're walking out there in the field, and I would feel like I was being watched a lot. Now, for me, I don't, and we're all investigators, but we don't always believe the same things. I don't believe the guy is drunk, nor do I believe that he has a disability. But that's just my personal opinion. For me, I just think he's just a negative entity. I don't want to say he's necessarily a type 3, but I think he would be a pretty bad type 2. That's just my personal feelings on that. But
It would make sense why he's not allowed to be anywhere near this. Why there's a protection placed on the schoolhouse,
Right.
So he can't get in.
and seeing if he just wants to go in there and give the kids a hard time too.
yeah, and so I remember just feeling watched. I mean, I feel that way nearly every time we go out there, unless it's a big group. Then when there's a lot of people around, it's hard for me to feel anything because there's just a lot of energy. But when I'm just with a few, I always feel like I'm being watched when I'm going out there. And then going into the schoolroom, it's kind of like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Breath of fresh air.
Yes.
But again, I was still feeling like I was being watched. And so I went out, kind of like what you did, how you went out to the doorway, except I stepped outside and stayed outside because I couldn't shake it. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to deal with it and figure out, what this is. And so I went out there and I was alone. And I wasn't far from anyone, but I just stood out there and kind of had like a mental chat, with this dude. And so that's why I don't feel like he has any disabilities or anything like that. But he was just like, I want to go where I can't go, where I'm not allowed.
Which
right.
makes sense. Yeah.
Right. And so he just keeps trying and trying and trying for an invite.
You just won't give up.
Right. And so that's, and he knew, and I think some spirits, they know when there's a living person who can feel them or see them or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah, they know.
Sense them. And so, and I think that's why he goes to me or why I feel him so strong is because I can sense them. I don't see them generally. I just feel where they are. But I could feel him all the time. So I felt like that's why he kept going to me and why I kept feeling it. I'm like, okay, just leave me alone. Leave us alone. We're just here to enjoy our time. We're not here to sit and chat it up with you and stop making it feel so negative. Because he was blocking me. Like I couldn't sense anything inside the schoolroom because he was so overwhelming. So anyways, got that figured out. He left, went back into that field, and then I went back into the schoolroom and finally just felt relief going back in there.
Yeah, I don't ever talk to him.
I've never really tried to give
I
him
never
any
tried. I'm just
attention.
anxious to get to the kids.
Me going and standing in front of the door is like the closest thing I've ever done to give any attention to him at all. The only reason why I did that is because he was causing some problems for other people that were in my group that were there. Otherwise, I've never really had to deal with him.
So
Yeah.
Terry has a talent, an ability. She's kind of like a blocker.
I'm not a blocker.
I'm
I'm
not
a
a blocker.
shield.
She's a shield. So if you've ever seen the movie Twilight, this is the way I describe it to people. The very last Twilight movie, Bella creates a bubble where she can kind of block the negative energy or the negative stuff from getting in. So it's like a bubble of safety. And Terry does kind of the same thing where she can kind of
I need to
repel that negative energy.
learn how to develop it better
do. That
and
would be
do
cool.
more with it. But
So when we do let our daughter investigate, who's
she
also
doesn't
sensitive,
go very far away from me.
she doesn't stray far from mom because, well, she's a teenage girl and she's still susceptible to a lot of things. And so until she learns how to protect herself, she stays close to mom, which is awesome. And then me, I'm just stupid. They just don't get me. Just like, you can't crack that skull. So, and then the other places out there on the other side, there are other spirits out there, but they just don't really tend to.
There's some ruins out there.
There's a telegraph
You got-
office that has a guy in there that's just kind of not real active. And then there's the ruins.
There's the ruins, which it's funny enough because everyone's mentioned the ruins, right?
I've never been over to try to find them or see them. I just know they're there.
Oh, if you go across the other bridge
Uh-huh.
by the big mill,
I've seen they've heard people point. They're just over there. I've just
Yeah.
never gone to look.
Just right behind the telegraph.
I don't want to trip and break an ankle. Thank you.
That's why I don't go over there.
Jamie and I took some pictures of the ruins
Yeah.
the last time, the second to last time we were there.
Cool.
And I was like, cool, what is this thing?
In the dark or the light?
Light.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't go over there in the dark.
I won't go over there in the light.
I'm fine with the light.
Like
And-
Terry said, it's a broken ankle and a rattlesnake bite waiting to happen.
Well-
Probably in the same instance.
Probably. But I mean, they're just a bunch of, obviously it's foundations of buildings that were there. And I was like, what the blast are these ruins? And I think I actually figured it out finally. So if you go to the Benson, the 3D,
The virtual tour.
the virtual tour of it, you'll see it says Polary Ruins.
Okay.
And you're like, what the blast is a Polary? That is a
It's where
place.
they make ice cream.
It's
It's a polar.
that's a creamery.
Oh, it's where they make snow.
No, it's actually where they process wool.
Okay.
So those ruins, looking back at the history, those would be the ruins of Brigham Young's wool processing plant.
Oh, that makes sense.
Oh, that's cool.
That makes sense. That's cool.
Yeah. So hopefully, mystery solved.
Yeah.
But I've never felt like there's any spirits over there when I'm out there.
I bet there are.
There
'Cause,
probably
like,
are.
There's like 6-7 buildings over there. It's just like you said. It's overgrown. It's a broken ankle. It's a snake bite.
It's not real.
See, and I heard of somebody
Safe.
that went over there and saw a very large shadow figure come up from the ground, scared the crap out of him, ran away. But talking to him, he thinks that it might have just been the chief that had been over there and come up and just made himself really big to scare him away.
Could be.
So another interesting thing about the Benson Grist Mill is over the fence to the north is the Stansbury Cemetery. And so there are a bunch of graves just right over the fence there. It's the same, whether you're at the amphitheater or at the barn or all the way out on the west side next to the schoolhouse. There's a cemetery. If you go over there and check it out during the daylight, you can totally see there's a cemetery right over the
I'm
fence.
surprised that
never
more
even looked.
spirits don't come over from that cemetery,
I agree.
honestly.
I really agree.
Well, look at what's bordering it. Would you really want to? If you've got the amphitheater and the barn where there's the type 3s and
True.
stuff, like,
True, but for as much ghost investigating that happens out there, and a lot of times that will draw more to you because
For
they
sure.
can see the energy you're releasing, that I'm surprised that more don't come over.
I'm surprised too, honestly.
But
Well, but who's to say they haven't at
yeah,
times?
that's true. And they
They
could
might.
be there, and we just don't talk to them because the ones that are already there are so prominent. Those are the ones we know that are there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something to try to focus on
And
next
how
time.
old is that cemetery? Like, has anyone actually?
I don't know that it's as old. It's not near as old as the mill is.
So
I
it's
don't. I don't think so. I mean,
I'll have to, we
it
should
seems
wander
like
over there
we should go over there and wander through it one
Yeah.
of these times.
and see how old of a headstone we can
I
find.
don't think there are many upright headstones. I think they're all kind of like the lower
The flat
flat ones,
ones.
which is more of a modern.
yeah, it's a much more modern. But in some cases they will take away they'll take away some of the nicer, like older headstones and put the flat ones in because of vandalism and other scenarios. So
Okay, field trip.
the other part that I've always found interesting is right across so on the end with the barn. I don't know what cardinal direction that would be.
The barn is
It's
on
the
the northeast
east.
corner of
Okay,
the lot.
so on the other side there's a fence, and on the other side of that is like soccer fields.
Yeah, there's soccer fields. And then there's the big power station right there too. There's all kinds of power lines over the top of it.
There's
Yeah,
there's
a
that
giant cell tower.
There's
There's
a
a
cell tower. So there's lots
There's a lot of
energy.
energy through that. So you got to be really careful using your K2 to get that baseline if you're using K2s out there. Well, anyways, I think we have burned out the subject of
Yes.
Benson.
I think so.
You know, we've had so many more instances and experiences out there.
We've been out there
We've been out there so many
Mike and I
times.
have, and even Elisa have been out there so many times
Oh.
now that
I
we
can't.
finally got to
plus.
the point where like we don't even want to investigate out there anymore. But we'll always go. We will always go.
I'll always go.
I think a team investigation is due.
I would love to go out
Agreed.
there with just the 5 of us.
Oh yeah.
Because I really wanted to just set up my Boo Bear in a cabin and walk away and just leave it because it didn't work up at the prison.
Oh, so mad.
I didn't even go in the mill this last time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
But I could
I
spend
really
forever.
wanted just to either set it up in the schoolhouse or set it up in the cabin with Abigail. But I didn't dare do that this time because there were so many people roaming around and I didn't want anybody to walk in on what I had set up.
See, I can't help but wonder if Lainey would love the bear because it's like asking the kids, "Can you count with me?"
Yeah.
And it goes
see?
1, 2,
But-
3. It's like school
And we
stuff.
could set it
Let's
up in
do
the
ABCs.
schoolhouse for half the night and then move it over into the Forsyth cabin
Oh,
for
for
half
sure.
the
That
night.
would be
Set
cool.
it up
Which
with
would be
a-
really
Set it
cool.
up with a camera and a mic.
A camera,
and let
a
it
mic,
roll.
and just let it go. Because when we
Yep.
tried doing it up at the prison, as soon as we walked away, the camera turned off, and my recorder turned off after 30 minutes.
Yep.
And we left it there for a good 2 hours.
Oh jeez.
I know.
So it was
I was
very
so mad.
disappointing to come back to
Ugh.
like nothing.
Yeah, that's weird. Although I gotta say that we didn't talk about the coolest, what I think is the coolest thing I've ever experienced investigating, in a sense, and it happened at Benson Grist Mill, and it happened on the other bridge.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the little ridge.
The covered bridge.
Uh-huh.
So Jamie and I were out there the first time we were out there because we, everyone else is in their groups and they're going around in their groups, and we're like, you know what? It is blasted hot.
Was this the first time you were there?
Very first time. And it's blasted hot. And we're like, you know what? We're already overheated. We're not going in any more stuffy, hot buildings. We're going to investigate outside. So we're like, where are the ruins? We're going to go to see the ruins, right? We didn't know where they were. We just knew they're on the other side of the bridge. But we were on the bridge, and all of a sudden, like, you could feel the bridge shaking.
Oh, like a vibrate?
Like an earthquake. Like, it was like swaying back and forth.
A little more than a vibrating.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm like, do you feel that? And so Jamie felt it. And it went on for a minute, 2 minutes. And then like we left because it's really hard to sit on the bridge because it's like you're almost getting motion sickness from the swaying. And so we left the bridge and we came back later, and it's never done it again.
Well, and that's a solid bridge. That bridge don't move. It don't sway.
No.
But it felt like it.
I've never been on that bridge.
I've walked
Really?
across it, but it wasn't anything special.
Most
It
people
was
don't
just-
go. Most people don't walk across the bridge because what are you going to go see?
The ruins is all it's on
The
the other side
ruins.
of it.
Yeah, everybody goes over the big bridge versus the small bridge.
Yep.
Yeah,
just-
exactly.
It's not very. Yeah, it just.
You're like, oh, there's nothing out there. Unless you want to get a good picture of the wheel, like the big wheel.
Your Ghost Adventures pose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Which they did say on their show that there was a 10-year-old girl named Alice who had drowned in a nearby pond that supposedly haunts the place. And the curator, Jody, that's her name. Jody did confirm on the show that was true, that there was a girl that.
I've never ever encountered an
But I've
Alice
never
anywhere over
encountered
there.
an Alice either. So. I don't know.
maybe she only comes up for the big cameras.
Yeah. I don't know.
They never even really contacted her with her, and we're not going to talk about that episode. It was a horrible episode.
It was a horrible episode. But if you ever have the chance to go to Benson Grist Mill, totally do it. It's one of the safer places. Even though there are the Type 3s there, it is probably one of the safest places and most benign.
It's a good beginner's
It's excellent beginning.
investigation
Oh, yeah,
place.
Lot of activity, a lot of active spirits, and it's not real dangerous. It's not like you're jumping into the deep end. It's a great way, and you can even avoid. I usually avoid all the Type 3s when I'm there.
Just avoid like the fire pit, the amphitheater,
And the barn.
In the
the
barn.
barn.
In the barn.
And there's
And be polite to everybody else.
at
And
least
you'll be good.
once a month, there is a public investigation going on at
Everybody
the Benson
goes.
Grist
Almost
Mill.
every single weekend through the summer, there's a public investigation on going out there.
So
I know there's one happening on Halloween. Well, yeah, on the 30th, which is Halloween in Utah, because we default to Saturdays when holidays are on Sundays. But there is an investigation on October 30th out there.
yeah.
If you want something spooky to do, it's one thing to go to a haunted house. It's another thing to go to a real haunted house. Yeah.
But did you guys know that Jamie pointed this out? So we were there at the Paranormal Potluck this last time doing an investigation on National Ghost Hunting Day.
Yep.
That was a very awesome thing. Yeah, we did know that.
So I had no idea. Jamie's like, we were on National Ghost Hunting, and I'm like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yep. There's National Ghost Hunting Day, and then there's National Paranormal Day in May, which is on my calendar. We'll talk about that when that comes closer. But in the meantime, we really appreciate all you guys coming in and tuning in and listening to us go on and on about our stories. If you like it, like I said, leave us positive comments, give us some reviews. Those are
Absolutely.
awesome.
Let us know you're listening.
Yeah. We see numbers of people that downloads, but that's kind of about all we have. So shout out to everybody who listens. There was somebody that we talked about. That I found out listened, and we were gonna throw a shout out, but I forgot completely who it is. So
Don't look at me. I don't know.
anyway,
Next time.
whoever
Next
you are,
time.
thank you, and here's your shout out.
But yeah, leave us comments. Leave us comments on Instagram.
You can also find us on Facebook at Cold Spot Paranormal Research. We also have a Facebook page for the Paranormal Peeps podcast. You can leave us comments there. We are on Instagram at
Cold spot _paranormal _research.
and is that where you put that live video from earlier?
Yes, the live video from earlier. If you want to see the party
Is it
we were
uploaded?
having, yeah, it's there.
It's our pre-recording party, so
our
it's in there.
party that we were having, it's there.
And
Check it
then,
out.
are we on Twitter yet?
Not
Does
quite.
anybody besides a politician or news people actually use Twitter?
We're not quite official on Twitter just yet.
Yeah, I don't use Twitter, so if it's not on Facebook or Instagram, it don't matter.
That's because all the young kids hang out on Twitter.
Yeah, and Snapchat
No.
and TikTok. It's TikTok.
Snapchat.
The young
TikTok.
kids are on the young kids are on Snapchat and Instagram.
So it must be much of the older crowd that's still on.
And then
Twitter
for all
now.
of you who are on MySpace, we don't have a MySpace page.
all one user.
I still have my account. I think on there.
I do too.
I tried to find it. I couldn't get in. So, all right, well, everybody. Hope you have a great night. Enjoy the month of Halloween.
And stay ghosty, my peeps. Thank you for listening to the Paranormal Peeps podcast. You can find us on social media at Twitter at CPR Paranormal, on Facebook at Paranormal Peeps Podcast and Cold Spot Paranormal Research. And you can find us on Instagram at Cold Spot _paranormal_research.